Hi, good to see you again. Today I'd like to talk about a little experience I had at home that kind of made me think that we live in an older home and we've had a bit of trouble with some pigeons. For some reason, ours is the only house in the neighborhood, but the pigeons really like to congregate there. And they've been there for some time, so it's kind of an old stomping grounds. We've tried putting up chicken wire and various means to get rid of them. And I was concerned because I had asked around, and some people put down a sticky tape and it puts a chemical into their feet and poisons them, or poison grain, or I've seen those little sticky things. They look like little sharp wires that stick up to keep them from roosting in the house. And they all seem kind of inhumane. I really don't have a problem with the pigeons, it's just the mess they make. So I was doing some more inquiries, and a couple that I met came forward that had some expertise in this area. They make pigeon traps, which they loaned one to us. And it's kind of an interesting device. It's mounted on a sheet of plywood about 4 feet long and a few feet wide. And it's made out of square, not chicken wire, but a little bit smaller, about ½ inch square screen. And it has little doors that flap, kind of one-way doors, so that pigeons can go inside to get the grain that's left there, but they can't get out. Kind of like the Roach Motel. They check in, but they can't check out. And then from there, we remove the pigeons and we put them in a holding cage where they're eventually removed to another area. And I had not been raised on a farm. I'm kind of a city kid, and I wasn't familiar with birds or traps or anything like that. I'm not much of a hunter or sportsman. So this has kind of been a learning experience for me. And after having worked with a pigeon trap for about a month now, it's become routine. I'll come home in the afternoon after work and go and check and see if there's any birds in there. And if there are, I remove them from the one and I put them in the other. And when there's a pretty good number of them, the couple that helped us with this comes by and picks them up. Well, I've learned several things from this experience. First of all, the pigeons aren't the brightest birds in the world. And that's okay. I guess that's where the phrase bird brain comes from. But they're there just to get food. You know, the food attracts them into there. Once they're in, they found that they're stuck, they're trapped. And it made me think about human experience, how sometimes we go along in our daily lives, not paying particular attention to our surroundings, but we go about our gathering and planting or harvesting, and we find ourselves trapped into circumstances that maybe we're not too comfortable with either, just like the pigeons. And it made me think quite a bit about this. Maybe you've had an experience like this. What kind of trap do you find yourself in? And the first thing that came to mind was the lottery. It's just kind of a habit. It's like throwing out the corn. The pigeons come along and they eat the corn. Well, so do we, at $1 a piece. You know, there's several jokes I can't talk about on the internet because they're a bit off color about how the lottery works, but an innocent way to say it is it's a tax for people who aren't very good at math, because if you knew the odds, you probably wouldn't be playing it. In any event, I thought about the lottery, and then I thought about casinos. You know, they're such fun places with all the lights and, you know, the free drinks and everything, and it's a place where people, like those pigeons, they come in and they start eating that free corn that's thrown out there. You know, maybe a free drink or a complimentary buffet or a room. And then they find themselves imprisoned by their own design into perhaps getting that gambling addiction, that Jones, to where they have to gamble. Maybe it's not either of those. Maybe it's having a cocktail after work when you get home, or a beer or two. Again, plucking on the thing that may give you a little bit of temporary relief, you know, a little bit of relaxation in the evening. And at the end of the day, or at the end of a year or two, you find out that maybe it's become more than just a relaxing drink or two after work. Well, getting back to my pigeon story, I found that even scarier aspect of it. Because on one occasion I came home, and the pigeon trap I've located up on a roof, a flat portion of our roof where I can get to with a ladder, I noticed these giant hawks. And I mean, they're big. And to those of you not familiar with hawks, they are very dangerous. They have very sharp talons, and they'll pick up small, rabbits and prairie dogs and the like, and mice and so forth, and carry them off and eat them. Well, from what my pigeon raising friend tells me is they're particularly fond of pigeons. Now, they don't eat the pigeons, they just eat the heads. And what has happened, it's kind of scary to hear about this. On a couple of occasions, there's a pair of hawks. They're very wise. They'll double team. They'll see pigeons in the trap, and they'll get on either side of it. And naturally, this makes the pigeons very nervous because the hawks are their natural enemy, so they start flailing about inside the trap, and sometimes they'll stick their head out thinking they can escape, and that's when the hawks get them. And I've come home to find a couple of decapitated pigeons. I mean, it was a very frightening experience for them, of course. It was a deadly experience, and for me it was very disturbing. And again, it made me apply this to the human experience. Maybe by picking up the corn that's thrown to us in the form of, say, free health care. Sounds good to me. Or various entitlement programs. We're eating that corn again. Maybe we're going to find ourselves imprisoned in something even scarier. Maybe it's more than an addiction. Maybe it's more than just an easy path for us to follow. But the forces that are waiting for us beyond that trap may be just as deadly and scary to us as those hawks. So all this conversation leads to the point that I'd like you to consider. Be wary of those bits of corn that are thrown out there for us, that we eat up so readily and so hungrily. Let's think things through and look a little further into the future, project to see what consequences are going to be had, what price has to be paid for those easy pickings that we may find. Kind of a sobering reality, but it's a lesson that the birds taught me. Good to talk with you again, and we'll see you soon.